Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2. That's right, we've made it past 1 of Curvecast, your go-to destination for all things curve life, entrepreneurship and the untold stories that shaped our journey. My name is Ben, Marketing Manager at Curve Capital. Joining me in the co-hosting seat is Rich Evans, Brand Marketing Consultant Mentor for Curve Capital. Does that sound about right for you?
Something like that, mate.
Spot on, something like that. Today, we're going to be talking about the transition from graduate to recruitment, what that looks like, what to expect, and recruitment as a career path. And we're joined by 2 very special guests who are both on the same journey, but at very different parts of it. To my left, we have Sales Director for Kevin Edward Testing Inspection Certification, Joe Hanson. And to my right, we have Recruitment Consultant at 7 Executive, Amelia Passey. How are we both?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I tell you what, you both look dapper. Look, I'm in me PE kit over here, I think, like compared to you guys.
Made the effort. Thank you for inviting us. I'm looking
No
forward to it.
problem. Anytime, yeah. So I'd like to kick us off. Obviously, you guys are both graduates, and just as curious as to how you got into recruitment, because there's a lot of times you hear about it, people just fall into recruitment. So I'm just wondering how you guys both got into recruitment in the first place. So I'll start with you, Joe. How did you get into it?
I think actually falling into recruitment is definitely something that I did to be, stereotyping to how a lot of people get into it. But to give you a very quick reason why I did get into it, it was actually through a bit of a dark time in my life. I'd been with my ex-partner for some time. We had a house together. And anyway, things ended and I couldn't afford the house. So I was showing people around the house and I was trying to sell it, desperate. I was going to move back with my parents. All my money was tied up in this property. And some guy came around and he wasn't a recruiter, but he was an electrician, and he was about my age, similar age, maybe a little bit younger. And I asked him, who you buying this with? Is it your partner? And he was like, no, it's myself. And I was jealous. And I think you either have a really positive motivation as why you make a change, or sometimes a negative one. And that fueled me to be. I want more from this life. I don't want that decision to be taken away from me. I want to decide how and what I do with my time. So basically, I started researching, what's good paid, where can I make money, and a friend of a friend, and I knew of, and I got introduced to James and to Stu, and so that it was a money motivated reason as to why I first considered recruitment, and then obviously that's changed as you learn and progress. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea as to why I joined the industry.
Yeah.
What is it you were doing before recruitment then?
So I worked for the Department for Work and Pensions, so government, and I was doing recruitment to an extent, but it was on a much larger scale, not as involved in the day-to-day of hiring people, more of a administration, project management, support function. So very different industry in terms of the corporateness and also the size of the company as well. But actually a really good first step into corporate life.
Yeah.
Was there anything from your previous roles that you felt that was transferable into recruitment, or was it like, fuck, I've got to start from scratch, learn a load of new skills and kind of develop myself here?
Yeah, I think being in an office environment is something that I really valued. I've always tried to dress as smart as I possibly can, and I think that helped from being in that environment previously in the government. It was the standard of yourself, how you hold yourself accountable, and also just the general office life, making cups of coffee and tea for people. That's something that you just get used to, and what the etiquette is. And I think that's the part that I've taken onto this journey as well.
I've never had one off you.
Well,
how would you?
The top tip I have is to make them as bad as you can, so no one else makes them. I bet you're as good as possible. But no, ultimately, it is. I would say different, and it's been a complete learning curve. So I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily transferable. The things that I wanted is I wanted to learn. I wanted to push myself, and I think if you've got those attributes, then recruitment is an area that you can do that.
How long have you been in recruitment now for that?
So I'm coming up to 5 years now, and I've only ever worked for Curve or for Kevin Edward as well.
Cool. What about you, Amelia?
Yeah, so I suppose I sort of did fall into it a bit as well. Came out of uni and I was just like really eager to start working as soon as I can. So I actually came through a recruiter myself, so that kind of gave me a bit of an insight straight away. So yeah, I think with him just describing recruitment to me, it sounded like something that I'd be interested in, sort of helping people and talking to people. But yeah, I think there is obviously the conception of falling into recruitment, but I think there is obviously a thought process behind, you don't just start a job for no reason. I
Yeah.
think when you do look into recruitment, it's either for you or it's not. Like, I think if you're prepared to put in a lot of work and you are quite an ambitious person, then I do think that's sort of right for you.
Yeah.
When the recruiter made that phone call then, which I'm assuming they did you apply for a job or did they call you?
Yeah, so I applied for a job. Didn't really know what it was.
Right.
It was a nice job description and I thought it sounded like something I might be interested in.
So did you just come across it on the job board when you were looking for just jobs, like graduate jobs, for instance?
Yeah.
And what
yeah.
other things were you applying for at the time?
So I did do quite a lot of research before. So I suppose I do say I fell into it, but there was quite a lot of reasoning like that I went into it. So I was directly applying for recruitment positions. And sorry, I forgot your question now.
Yeah, I think I was just trying to get an idea for potentially other graduates that are wondering what to do maybe post-university nowadays.
Yeah.
Around like what your thought process was more than anything else. So where were you at in your head? So again, it's not like you ask kids what do they want to grow up, policeman, fireman or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the sort of career where you do hear a lot of people growing up wanting to do recruitment. But I think it is the sort of career if you're quite an ambitious person, because it kind of gives you the entrepreneurial side of things. Where you are like managing your own workload and organising your own time, which is something that I really liked. Like coming out of uni, you are used to doing that, like managing everything on your own, your deadlines, and that's something that I really liked about it. Sort of dealing with my own. I can essentially manage like my own income, depending on how hard I work, and that's something that like really sold to me. I liked that side of things.
So more so the independence, really, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I do obviously have a manager, but he's not telling me what to do every day. Like, I kind of get on with my own things. And you get like a lot of autonomy in terms of how you're going to spend your time.
Cool.
So when you were going through that process of deciding whether recruitment obviously was for you, did you have any sort of preconceptions about it? I know I did personally. I was like, I thought it was like Wolf of Wall Street in recruitment kind of things, or the sales side. But to me, it's not like that at all now. Was there any preconceptions that you might have had before you joined?
Yeah, well, I think with recruitment, I thought it was going to just be really easy. Like, all I have to do is send CVs to employers and I'll get some money for it. I think it does seem quite easy to start with. I don't think going into recruitment you realise all the ins and outs and the intricacies behind it and how much hard work it is. Obviously, it is super rewarding, all the hard work, but I do think you don't realise at first going into it what kind of expected. Like in my interviews, I was asked a lot about my resilience and how like mentally tough I am. I didn't really get it at the time why that was so important, but obviously I do get it now. You do get quite a lot of ups and downs.
So Amelia, just going back to actually first and foremost, how long after university did you start in recruitment?
Just a few months.
Literally, yeah.
A couple months.
Fine.
Hopefully, yeah.
So if you're looking at what did you study again?
Business management.
Right, fine. So it's fairly relevant. I mean, people come into recruitment from all sorts and like weird and wonderful degrees nowadays, which I think is also fine because it's more about the personality traits more than anything else, I'd say. So if you consider the type of people that was on your course, because I bet it's a diverse mix of different personality types on a business management course.
Yeah.
And you consider kind of the different people that you went to university with, which ones would you say would be right for a recruitment environment or a career in recruitment? And which ones would you say are potentially certainly not right for recruitment?
That's a good one. I think, like you said, obviously with my course, it was quite transferable with it being business. But I don't think it matters. I think if you do any kind of degree or anything, it can be quite transferable into recruitment. I don't think it matters too much. But yeah, with the personality traits, I think it does matter quite a lot. I think you need to be quite an ambitious person, hardworking. You need to be able to like organize your own time and things. Um, and can you ask me again?
Yeah, well, it's just down to kind of those core traits that I suppose you would say helps in
Yeah.
recruitment, because there is that stereotype as well that it's like Ben said there, like old school Wolf of Wall Street, and communication skills obviously matter.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to communicate effectively with people.
Yeah.
However, it's not like years ago when it was kind of just like full on brash salespeople all the time. There is that mix of people who might be a little bit more diligent or a little bit more organized than just full on boiler room sales, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think it is for everyone. Like at Curve, there's something that goes around quite a lot, like can you be bothered, which is something that we say quite a lot. And I think if you are the type of person that can be bothered and you're ready to go the extra mile, and because it's not the type of job where you go home and switch off. Like you do need to be passionate about it and you know, be really interested in the clients that you're working with and the candidates. So I suppose like if you are the type of person that can be bothered, then it is for you. If you're not, then you probably won't do as well because you're not as passionate about it.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Joe? Like, you might not be able to remember going back to your uni days now, mate, but in terms of, I suppose, the difference between working for the government compared to working to Curve, what types of people, I suppose, potentially in your previous role that you'd be like, yeah, they just aren't right for recruitment, and maybe potentially ones that would be?
Yeah, I think, you know, the first big difference was the amount of younger people that I was around in recruitment. I think in my previous role, I was possibly the youngest by 20 years. I'd come in through the fast track apprenticeship scheme, which was basically 200 people from across the UK was elected onto it. So I chose that as an alternate route to university initially. And then actually, whilst I was working there, I did and completed my degree. So it was, but then moving from that to recruitment, I think, yeah, the first thing was that cultural change actually of the younger people, and it is that environment sometimes comes through as well. You know, the social aspect of it. I think people speak a lot of that in recruitment for the wrong and right reasons. But onto the type of people that I think fit in recruitment, and I wouldn't say necessarily that there's a certain degree that means that you're going to be a better success. Although I did like Amelia, business management. I think there is components and aspects of the course that really fit in. The other part of it, it's just who you are as a person. So despite, you know, regardless actually what background you've come from, I think having that well-rounded personality, having exposure to different experiences is really valuable. And the thing that I love about recruitment is that no one seems to do it the same way. You can express your individuality. You can be more formal, more professional if that suits you. You can also be really informal or friendship, and it's that to me is a key quality. Is it's you know, you're mirroring your audience and you doing something that works for you. So I know that's maybe a bit of a long-winded way to answer your question, but I just wanted to make it pretty clear to any graduates watching there. I think, you know, regardless of your degree, if you've got the right attitude, the right personality traits, then I would consider you for our business. 100%.
Well, that sort of leads me on to one of the questions that I've got is, obviously you're now more managerial role. So when you're looking for graduates to maybe take on to your business, is that what you look for more, do you think? More sort of not so much the degree like you're saying, but more so the skills and the personality of that person? Obviously the degree is important.
Yeah.
But do you think that's more of a, you know, a showing of a person really and how they're going to be?
I mean, the best recruiter that I know doesn't have a degree. No, he owns a company.
Who's that?
James. So I think he'd be, you know, happy for me to share that. And you know, he's hands down the best recruiter I've ever met. So I think that what having a degree shows, it's that you've got that commitment, you're able to retain information, that you've got a passion for a certain area. But what I look for is definitely it's the attitude, it's the personality. Would I want to deal with that person? Could I trust that person? And everything that I'm trying to do now is I'm always thinking about, right, if I was looking for a new job, if I was the person that needed help, what would I expect? What's important to me? And then I try and reflect that in my outlook. And it seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, I love that. You've been in what is it, 5 years now?
Coming up to 5 years, yeah.
So you said in terms of like some quite well-rounded personality traits and all the rest of it in terms of when you joined, and you've done well, and in 5 years got sales director, which is absolutely incredible. So hats off to you to that as well, for that anyway.
Thanks.
In terms of like Joe 5 years ago compared to Joe now, and the experiences that you've had working in recruitment, how do you feel like you've developed as a person and grown as a person?
A lot. You know, I doubted myself so much before I came into recruitment, and actually I didn't believe in myself as much as I should have. And it's actually taken now to look back, and I just back myself a lot more than I used to. You become more confident, I think, because of what recruitment does really well is it gives you a demonstrable track record. Because a lot of the time it's a process. And if you follow that process, you get the result. And that means you can reflect and look and fine tune. And I'm not saying I'm the finished article, you know, by no means. Yeah, it's a great accolade to become and be recognized to be a director, but now I've just got more responsibility to continue it, you know, and it's taking myself to, right, where can I do now? I'm speaking to you, Rich, and getting a lot of advice outside of recruitment, how you improve. I think on the personal development side, it really translates well to the recruitment side of it as well. So going back to what you mentioned there about me, I think I've just, got a lot more confident in my ability. I trust myself, and I'm always open to new ideas and new ways of learning. So I think sometimes when you're a bit younger as well, that probably comes with age. Although, you know, I'm just 29 now. So I've been in the business for 5 years. And I think within that age gap, you do a lot of growing up as well. So maybe it's just, I've changed, just not just due to recruitment, if that makes sense. It's
well, I think you can do a lot of growing up if you're exposed to the right things.
Yeah.
Whereas, there's a lot of things about recruitment that give you a lot of those good traits that could potentially be used elsewhere as well. Like you say, you've got to have a certain amount of resilience when you come in, but you're not going to last unless you kind of build that up as you go through anyway.
You know, it is a hard job, but the rewards from it, I just think that they outweigh that. I used to work at Asda stacking shelves on a night. That's a hard job. You know, it truly is. That's hard. Been away and having 2 days off. I used to have Tuesday, Wednesday off. I only did it for a short period of time, but it was long enough to realize that actually that is really hard. I want to do something that I'm not ever an expert. And I talk to my team a lot at the minute about there's perfection here, but actually the most important thing is progress. This is a goal that we don't really need to ever. It's all about working towards it, moving towards it. And that's where I feel like I fit in right now. So to give someone, you learn, you've got exposure to, you know, I'm speaking to CEOs, I'm speaking to executives, I'm speaking to really people on my journey as well. So it's the fluctuation of people, the different countries, the different locations. So recruitment, I believe, just gives you the tools to be successful in any area. And Stu was on the podcast last week. He talks a lot about, you know, we are the SAS or the, you know, the high level sales experts, because it is sales. You're selling people, which is probably the most difficult product that you can sell. And
massive lack of control.
And that's where I think Amelia mentioned about the resilience, and that's something that we always talk about, because 1 minute it's the best job, easiest job, everything's going well. You've got the Midas touch, it turns to gold, and whatever the opposite of the Midas touch is, sometimes that happens and everything's falling apart. And you're trying to, you know, trying to pay your mortgage and trying to help your family, and then you're taking that home. I put a post this morning about that personal work-life balance, and it is a challenge. And I'm not, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but I just think that it's important to share that. For me, that one of my key aspects and what I think helps people, it's been really open to learning. And having that passion for it, and knowing that you can never be the finished article and you're always learning. But while you're thinking, there's other people doing. So make sure that you're making action as well. And that's something that I keep close to myself now. It's always about, we'll become an expert later. You know, just keep enjoying it.
I do see that from you though, mate. Like, I know in terms of, we don't know each other extremely well and we haven't spent that much time with each other, but I do see that from you. You mentioned one of the traits in terms of like when you first got into the recruitment industry was that eagerness to learn, but now you've got to sales director level. Like, I see that from you pretty much more than anyone in the business. So hats off to you for that.
Thanks.
Because I think curiosity as well, that curiosity to learn and wanting to understand why things are done a certain way and all that tends to go down quite well, not just in recruitment, but any kind of meritocratic career.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you talk about having to pick yourself back up as well, and kind of the tougher times as well. Like, how do you do that?
I think you've just got to keep going. Alan, who's one of my trainers in recruitment, he trained me. Part of the Curve business group, really experienced recruiter. I would say he's trained a lot of the top recruiters in the Leeds area, and he says basically you've got to come to work until you win the lottery, or for some reason, you're going to have to work. So why not just be the best that you possibly can? Why not just give it everything that you possibly can? So when it's hard, you've just got to remember, what you're doing, and it's worth it. I remember the first person that I placed. I can remember. I think it was 20,000. I know it were a 20,000 increase on his basic salary. Probably changed his life, and that's what I'm doing it for. When I talked earlier about the reason why I joined was for the money, but I meant more as the earning potential. It was more that, and I think Amelia made a great point about you can dictate how much you want to earn. At Asda, if I start the shelves in record time, I'll get paid the same at the end of the month. In recruitment, you can really dictate, and I think commission-based roles do help with the tough times, because you've got to remember that that's usually where a lot of grads or anyone in the industry earn the majority of their salary. I don't know, it'd be different for different recruitment firms, but typically you have quite a good commission structure which incentivizes. So that's why I think it keeps you focused and keeps you motivated. So I don't really have a top tip on staying resilient. I think you build it, and also I try and keep as level as I can now. I don't really have that enjoyment I used to have when you've got someone at the first interview stage. It's much more that cynical. And sad, instead of like happy, but you just gotta go with it.
Stereotypical recruitment roller coaster.
Yeah,
if you've got it where it's just level, then you're an absolute master. But I'm sure there's times where it's up and down as well. How are you finding that? Because that's kind of the stereotype, isn't it? Like, the journeys are just a roller coaster of ups and downs and highs and lows.
Yeah, I think as a graduate coming straight from uni, you are in quite a rush with everything you want. I know that I wanted my first fee straight away, and you think it's going to happen for you straight away. And when things are looking good, you kind of work out, you get your calculator out and work out what your fees will be and that sort of thing. But I think in terms of staying resilient, you do have to detach yourself from it.
How are you finding the lows of recruitment, Amelia? So obviously, I know you're doing well, and you're billing, and you're making some good placements. I'm always very nosy at them boards when I come in. How are you finding things when you're having your tougher weeks, and how do you deal with that, being so early on in your career as well?
I think in terms of like staying resilient, you have to just detach yourself from it. And with some of the things that I've had that's not gone my way and everything, something that my manager says quite a lot is that, in spite of that, I have built relationships with people. So even though I've had a loss from here, in that I've built some great relationships. So for me, I suppose advice to graduates going into recruitment would be to really focus on building relationships with people from the get-go, because networking is so important in recruitment. That is where a lot of the success comes from. So I'd probably put quite a focus on that, and then you don't get too upset when things don't go your way.
I think like being so early in your career as well, like it's a really good trait to learn early doors, because
you think it's going to be a rush at first, like you just want short wins, but I think if you are going into it for a long-term career, that is so important that you need to focus on. And
it is those wins, like the longer you're in business, the longer you realise that, like, not every transaction adds digits to your bank account. And I suppose when you get further on in your career, it's less about the short term, because you're not just after that commission check or whatever and putting a fee on the board or whatever. You know that, okay, I'll just keep banking it here, because it all comes back around.
Well, for me, like when I started last September, I had some good conversations with a client. Things didn't really go my way, but I've kept checking in with them every so often. And then last month they've come to me now with some roles, and we're going to work together. So at the time I was a bit gutted that things didn't happen straight away for me, but because I've kept a good relationship, it has helped me in the long run.
Love that.
I think I want to come back to what you said, Joe, about how you've progressed over like the years that you've been in recruitment. So obviously, Amelia, you said you started last September. Do you think you've seen growth in your own personality or how you are by obviously starting a career in recruitment from a graduate
Yeah, I think
in such a short time?
in terms of your personality, I do think it adds quite a lot. I'm not the most confident person, so going into recruitment and in your first week, you're meant to be talking to really senior people in the US, the CEOs have got this, and I'm just like a 21-year-old that's just come out of uni. Like, it's a bit daunting. You do feel like, am I right for this? But at the end of the day, when you realise they are just people and you just have good conversations with them, and you realise they just want, a quality service from you, if it's, the client that you're working with, it does make things easier that they are just people at the end of the day. But with that, I think I have grown a lot as a person in the short time I've been in recruitment. It does help you become more confident, and you just believe in yourself a little bit more. And you realise things aren't as far-fetched as you think they might be.
I think it's hard, like when you're younger, isn't it? That, like, I remember, like in sales jobs, I obviously started my career in recruitment as well, and it's hard to get out of that mindset of putting people on a pedestal a little bit.
Yeah.
And once you get over that and think, actually, they want me to do well because I'm going to make their job easier.
Yeah.
And this candidate wants me to do well because they want a job through me. It's like they are just people with their own needs, with their own feelings, with their own challenges, with their own pains. And it's like you're there to help them with that, which can be rewarding. But I think it takes a while for that to, I suppose, become a realization early does, doesn't it?
Yeah, just to like take a step back and realize that, if you're a trustworthy person, and instead of just speaking to people, like robots, and you're just more freely spoken, I think you can build up better relationships, and it's easier to speak to people like that rather than being scared to speak to the really senior people. So yeah.
Good stuff.
I want to move on to, there might be some people sort of obviously watching or listening to this podcast who might be looking for a career in recruitment, and potentially they're thinking they've got into the position where they've landed an interview for somewhere or something like that. How would you say is the best way for them to maybe prepare for that interview, or what, and demonstrate what they could bring to the table? Maybe, as you said, you can come from many different degrees and backgrounds when coming into recruitment. What should they potentially hone in on maybe to obviously prepare for the interview and then do the interview?
I think that's, a question that could be answered in a lot of different ways. So I'll try and give you my perspective. I know that'll be different for different agencies and so on, but like what I said earlier, I look for the personality trait. So I want someone who is going to come in and wants the opportunity, who's interested, curious, these aspects, and usually they have a motivation, that what is their why, really, getting to the basis of. So my advice is genuinely to be yourself, because I think there's that many agencies out there that if it's the right industry for you, you'll get opportunities. I think quite a lot of grads, if they went down Leeds and went to each, you might get 10 interviews potentially, and then it's about selecting what's the best fit for yourself. I've never worked in any other agency either, so I've only heard, and I think that sometimes you only know what you know. But in our business, I would say that I like the fact when someone's taken the time to research about our business, give a bit of a summary on the markets. I don't need them to know too much about recruitment, because we can train that, we can support that. You can't train a good attitude, you can't train someone with a good work ethic and someone who's got that willingness and that chance. We've had people who've come to interview and you can just tell that they just want that opportunity. And I love that. I rate that a lot when people are just genuine. I really want this, and it's not as trying to be too cool for school. It's like, I really want a chance, and I think I can do this. And I've heard my friends done it, or I've got a colleague or whoever that might be, and I just want this opportunity. So that for me is the things that are key. And I appreciate that's not too tangent and helpful for a lot of people maybe listening, but yeah, just be yourself, be authentic.
I think it's a good message to get across, because sometimes I think you can get a bit lost in the sort of interview process. I think of about, in that process of looking for somewhere, maybe trying to be something that you're not potentially. And I
Yeah.
think obviously that sort of realistic and who you actually are should maybe come across a lot more.
I think that's right. I find that people sometimes they come to our interview and we've got to almost disarm them and say that we're not maybe what you think we are. You know, we talked about Wolf of Wall Street earlier. I mean, I'm sat here with the shirt that Jordan Belford wore, which I've had to not wear my tie purposefully because I thought if I say that Wolf of Wall Street, they'll be like, what's this guy? But genuinely, I think that we've got to sometimes explain that, look, we're a consultative, especially my, Amelia, yours might be slightly different in 7, but to explain the group, we're the testing, inspection, certification. We're very consultative, in line with the people that we support. It's not a hard sell. It's about building long-term relationships with people. So we want someone who is friendly, trustworthy, hardworking, someone who is genuine interest and intrigue as well. So, like I said, I think if you can express an interest in the business, the reasons why you think it would be quite a good fit. If you've got a degree in a background relevant to science, because that's what we do a lot of work in, then great. But also, if you haven't, that's fine, because we can learn and teach and guide. So the key thing I would be saying to graduates is just be as honest as you possibly can be, and also explain and try and articulate the reasons why you think you'd be a good fit for the industry.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Love that. So you're 5 years in now. Obviously done well. Sales director from a graduate level, I suppose, because there was no previous recruitment or specific recruitment agency experience anyway. So we're sat here again in 5 years' time. What do things look like for Joe then? What's your ambition moving forward?
Well, I mean, it's something that I have started to think about. Where does this journey and where does this opportunity take me? And the one thing that I would say about Curve as a whole, they've never let me down. Everything that they've said, provided I do my side of the bargain, it's always become a reality. So what I would say is, we're going through, I don't want to share too much, going through a bit of a potential rebrand and some websites. Hot news. Don't want to say anymore. But we're doing that because we think the market needs it. We think that we can provide a deeper level of industry knowledge and actually be more of an extension of their brand, a real partner in the industry. So we think that our sector needs it, and that's where we're moving. So in 5 years' time, I love the brand to be, one that's recognised, but also that's known for the right values, for helping people, for genuine care. That, to me, if we keep focusing on the customer side, focusing on what our clients need, I believe everything else will look out for itself. In terms of my own development, as long as I can keep improving, that's a key thing for me. It's that personal development. And as I said, I hope I've come across in the right way, that I don't have all the answers. And sometimes I'm not an expert, and I'm fine with that. Because actually that willingness and I, as long as my end goal probably is to be the best recruiter in the world, which how can I ever define that? But as long as if I keep chipping away and working towards it, that's what I'd love to be in 5 years' time, closer to that point.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Amelia? So things are a little bit... How long have you been in recruitment now then?
Around 7 months.
About 7 months,
so
yeah.
Not too long.
Fine. So we won't look 5 years ahead, like a year ahead for you. What's that look like for you?
So like I said before, just building my relationships in the market. But I think going back to what Joe was just saying then about like continuously learning, I think that's just something that I just want to keep focusing on. Just, I mean, in terms of, I'm going off subject a little bit now, but with what we were saying before about graduates going into interviews, I think showing that willingness to learn, that you're not perfect, that you are moldable, and a lot of people go into interviews wanting to show off that they know all the answers and the finished package, but I don't think anyone is going into it. So I think just showing that you are eager to learn, and because I think when you're at uni, you think that's where all the learning happens. But I think with recruitment, everything's a learning curve. You never stop learning. I've probably learned more in these 7 months than my whole education, probably, in terms of as a person, and in my working career. So yeah, going back to your question, just focusing on my own growth really, and just working to be a better recruiter, like the people I'm working with. I've got a lot of people to look up to, so I've got some good role models.
Yeah, amazing. I love how, like, and I know it's genuine as well because I know you both. Like, a lot of the focus here has been on like that passion for learning, and I think, like, I know from hiring people in the past, it's like you're looking for people who are coachable, and who've got that growth mindset. And I think if you boil it down, that's like for your team in particular, Joe. I think that's kind of the message that you're trying to get across here, isn't it? It's like we don't need, like, rough diamonds are fine. Like, we don't need any finished product here. It is just that desire to learn, work ethic, and hunger to succeed as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other way to. That's a beautiful way to position it, because I think that that's what we do want. Genuinely want that, and I'm a big advocate of failing fast. I want people to come and give them a lot of responsibility and make mistakes and learn from it. I mean, I'm going to probably murder a quote or a thing that is in my head, but there's this story about this a plane, I think it's taken off, and they've got an engineer, and he and he fails his test. And the guy gets in the plane, and if they catch it just before it takes off, but it would have like blown up and he would have lost his life. The next day he says, I want you to check the plane. You know what I mean? So it's like he's probably the best person for that job then, because he's gone through the whole experience and learned. And sometimes failing is a real key way to learn. So that's why, but you need that, all these pieces that we're talking about: resilience, desire to learn, desire to be the better version of yourself. I think they all come into one. If you've got that attitude, then one knockback. You know, what we were talking, Rich, with some of your, how you reaching out to new clients, business development components, and it's about, if you get a no, don't take it personally. You're in the same position that you were. You're one yes away from potentially changing your life. So I know that's a little bit off tangent, but I think it's important to share, and for the people listening as well, that you just got to keep going. And if you've got that willingness to do that, I think that the recruitment is the right industry. I believe that it will afford you lots of opportunities. And yes, it's hard, but I know people in recruitment, and in terms of, let's talk about earning potential, that's usually a way that people use it as a barometer of success. They're earning more than doctors. In a year, 2 years after they graduated, these guys have been studying for 7 years. Amount of stress, you've got people's lives in your hands, and we're helping people get jobs. And so I sometimes think that use the context and think that, wow, what an industry, what an opportunity I have, and from very young age, really. You're given.
Yeah, I love that, mate. I love that. I think with that as well, when you've got those type of people, so who are very entrepreneurial, and you might be getting people who, prior to starting a recruitment career, are thinking, well, I want to get into it because I want to start my own business, which again is absolutely fine. It's a mindset you want, and I think,
just to interject on that, sorry, I was going to say, look at yourself. Like, look what you've done, you as recruitment, and then I think you've moved into marketing, you've run different businesses, and that's a great example of for us as well. There's lots of people, starting point, and then the skill set that you learn. It might not be the end role, but a lot of people, I think, having that exposure to recruitment does help in other avenues.
I've always said, in terms of, if you want to get into a career, recruitment is the number one to become the most commercially rounded, because you learn so much in such a short period of time, particularly with dealing with people as well. I can't think of any other role out there where you get so commercially rounded in a short period of time, and then the opportunity that it affords as well. I mean, look at Jess. She's just gone over to Dubai. She's been supported, and I know for a fact, I think the point I was wanting to get onto with that as well, Joe, is that if we've got these entrepreneurial people, that will always be supported within Curve. It won't be a case of, right, well, you just stuck to this brand and there's a ceiling there, because of the entrepreneurial nature within the group structure, I suppose. Like, if someone's got the right skill set, talent, attitude, and ability to then go and start their own brand in the future, there's kind of no ceiling there, is there?
No, absolutely. I think, let's build the role around the person. If that's what they want, if that's what they're looking for, then let's afford them that opportunity. For the right person, you can, I'd be happy for someone to come and after 90 days start giving me a business plan of what I want to do and what it looks like. Good for you. Let's do it. Like, how can we achieve it? But it all comes back to getting in and learning the trade and understanding it to as much as you possibly can, and then deciding where and what you want to do from the career. You can get probably as much or as little out of it as you want. And that is something that it's all down to that individual.
And that's what you will get. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's an old cliche as well. Like, you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. Potentially not when you're stacking shelves at Asda and you're stacking like 50 an hour and you're absolutely amazing at it. You're probably still going to get, you might get a little bit of a pay rise.
The fastest stacker.
Yeah.
I might have to argue with you, Joe.
I bet you were,
I was at Sainsbury's.
Really fast.
But in recruitment, I think in Curve as well, like, that is always going to ring true. You're going to get paid for the value that you bring to the marketplace. We've concentrated on graduates quite a lot because that was kind of the theme, because you both came as unexperienced graduates, I suppose, and the opportunities that it's afforded both here. But it's not just graduates that we look at Curve, is it? There's obviously different routes to market and different, I suppose, roles where people come for as well. So just to highlight that point, like, what do you feel are the main strengths of people? It's easy coming from university and you think, oh yeah, it's people who've done X, Y, and Z at university and these personality traits as well. But outside of the graduate route, what other routes do you see successful?
I mean, in terms of people joining the business, myself, I didn't come straight out of university. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. 18-year-old Joe probably wouldn't have been sat here right now because I don't think I'd have made it through. And if I'd have picked the wrong business as well, I don't think I'd have made it through. I've heard some horror stories about, you've had an hour's training, get on the phone, and I was scared of the phone. Genuinely, I was scared of the phone. I could meet people and I was happy, but when it came to picking up the phone, I was like this different person. So I used to wait actually until people were on the phone just so that I didn't get all the attention on me, which is crazy now. But I can understand why people have that fear. And what I'm trying to get at as well is, I think it doesn't particularly matter from as far as let's talk about my business, because that's the one where I can have an impact. And I would say I'm not focused on where the background is. I'm not too fixed even if they've got a degree, if they've got life experience and work experience, if they're older than me, even to like my parents' age, I don't really mind, provided that this is interesting and for what reasons and what value we can offer them and what they can bring to us. It's a two-way calling, I think. And it's so I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were looking for, Rich, in the question.
Yeah, but I think we're kind of pigeonholing people needing a degree to start at Curve in recruitment, for instance, when that's not the case, mate, is it? Like, and I think the point that you both made very much here, which I completely agree with as well, it is that desire to do well, it is that desire to learn and to grow as a person, never mind just in a career as well, I suppose.
I think, like you were saying, like, there's the development opportunities that obviously you guys, do you feel like you've received a lot of that when obviously you've been here, what was it, 5 years, Joe? Is that how long you've been on the recruitment journey? Do you think you've had a lot of recruitment development opportunities along the way, and do you think that's been sort of given you provided in the recruitment industry?
Yeah. I think let's go back to my trainer and use I'm trying to use ways to explain, but you never kick a wagging dog, and I think sometimes in terms of my job has been to come into work and I if it was my own business, how would I act? If someone's working for me, what would I expect of them? And that's what I try and replicate for Curve. So I come in with the best attitude I possibly can. I try and leave my ego at the door and any issues that I've got, and I come to work to help the business, help myself, help everyone, and really just giving that really good attitude. I think that's enabled me to and help with my progression, because I think people want to help you then. That's the beauty of this business, is because I don't know how much everyone would understand about and I don't want to get too much detail, but basically we've got the umbrella, so we've got the Curve brand, and then within it we've got different subgroups. So that's probably a weird way to explain it. But anyway, hopefully the people understand. So what we've got is actually, so Amelia is, I suppose like a colleague, but actually not. Different businesses, different industries. We could actually even potentially be in direct competition for some of the areas that we focus in. However, what you do have that is access to so many experts, business owners who you can learn from. So I just see it as like a sponge, just going in and trying to learn as much as I can from all these different people. And then you've got that willingness for them to help you and share best practices, new ways of working. So the Curve model, I think, works really well at creating operational excellence, sharing best ways of working, sharing masterclasses, businesses helping each other. Let's take Kevin Edwards, Sick and Seven, similar sized businesses. We've got that inter-competition that's friendly, but it's just to improve us really and working to achieving a business that's fulfilling the needs of our clients. So I would say that within just talking about my development, whenever I wanted to go down the route of managing people, that was something that I was really passionate about, really wanted to do. But equally so, recruitment's not an industry where you just have to earn more money or to get more responsibility. It doesn't mean that you have to manage people. You can take on like more global markets, different markets, set up a new market. The opportunities are endless. It comes down to the individual. So I would say that everything that they've offered to me, I've been, really keen, and I've usually expressed in as end of year meeting, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get out. And even now, Rich, I know you're doing a 90-day plan and things to help even, get it more simplified. What do you want to achieve this quarter? Then I will obviously share that with my team, and my job as a manager now is to understand what their why is. Why are you doing this job? Because it is hard. What do you want to get from it, and how can I help you? And then you've got to do the rest. And then hopefully it's going to benefit everyone.
That's it. And I think that's it when you get into leadership, mate. It's monkey see, monkey do. So like you've got to keep going yourself and set that example, and the pressure's on. So look, I think it's ace that you've both been completely honest. Look, we've not painted a picture here of how fucking unbelievable recruitment is and just get into it or just come to Curve because it's better than any other company out there. Like you two being really honest about like the struggles, and you've got to have that growth mindset and you've got to learn and all that type of stuff. But like, come on, let's go on to the positives. Like, let's talk about the culture, the camaraderie, like the fun stuff, because you've worked in an environment, Joe, where you've said it's a bit stuffy, like you were the youngest there by some distance. And there's probably some people sat out there going to work, bored fucking shitless in that type of environment. And I think there's something about recruitment from obviously experience in other companies as well, but particularly Curve as well, where it's the environment and you're coming into work and there's something fun about it. And I know Stu was talking on the last podcast about having a laugh and all that type of stuff. And we don't want to bang on and say, look, it's just incentives left, right and centre, but you guys were at the races on Friday. I was gutted I missed it. They're like all that good stuff compared to like other career routes. You can compare it to the government work, which sounds like hell if I'm honest. And I think, Amelia, you're probably having some chats with people who've maybe gone down a different route in terms of like that graduate career as well. So do you want to start on that one in terms of how it feels in terms of the choice that you've made compared to maybe some of your mates that might have got into that bit of a more environment?
I think in terms of Curve itself, I did interview at other companies, so I did kind of get a feel for the vibe at other companies, whereas it is very different at Curve. It's just like
name and shame, get them on.
It's just like it's just like you're part of a family. So I think for it being my first full-time career from uni,
So that's quite daunting, I suppose, as well.
yeah, like it's nice though. You just feel super comfortable straight away, really. But yeah, we're always doing fun things. I'm still recovering from Friday.
It's Tuesday, by the way. It is Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. So.
No, but in comparison to, I know that a lot of people that I've got on social media and stuff like that are always asking me what I do, and they're always like, "Are you ever working? You're always doing fun things." But I think they don't see all the late nights that we have. We do, we do work hard, but we play harder.
My first job in recruitment, I think I lasted like 3 months because it was fucking boring. So there is different cultures elsewhere. It was just like you could hear a pin drop at all times. I'd gone from knocking on doors on Leeds Council Estate, selling TV packages and having a right laugh with the people I was doing it with, to then sitting in a stuffy office like where you could hear a pin drop, and it was just like, that just didn't work for me. But again, now I come and see you guys, and like you don't get that. You walk in and it's like, this is great. There's a buzz about the place.
I considered some work from home jobs, and at the time I was like, oh, it just seems really chill. But I think you just can't compare. I think if I'm not wrong, I think I'm the youngest at Curve, so for me, like the social side of things, I just love all that side of things. I think if I if I'd been working from home, I don't think you get that same, even in terms of the competitive atmosphere as well. Like, I think if you are a competitive person, you do get a buzz off that, and I think it does massively push you as well. Just being around people and just, you know, thriving off each other's success as well. I think it's massive.
I think at your age as well, like, it's something that we've not touched on, and I don't think like many people touch on it. Like, how old are you again?
I was 22 yesterday.
22 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
So
Thank
like,
you.
when I was 22, like, work was like a massive part of my social life. And it's where you meet all your best mates in the future and all that type of stuff. I couldn't imagine like being a graduate now and then going to work from home. Like, what the fuck?
I think a lot of my my uni life was during COVID times, so I think I was just very much used to that. So the thought of being in a busy office with loads of people is quite daunting, but no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, can you imagine like going to uni during COVID and like doing all these seminars and lectures from home and then getting a job working from home? But it's like, what's this experience of planet Earth?
I was like, I need to get out there now.
What about you, Joel, and comparing it to like the government more role? Like, how just the environment and like what you feel about it?
Massively different. Massively. Everything that you would expect, I would say. Not going into too much detail. I love you, the government. If they're listening to this, I miss it.
Go check my self-assessment.
But you know, so sometimes it's too good. I don't know if anyone's seen my ring during the call, but I'm now married. So
congrats.
I come home and I'm like, oh, how are you doing? You all right? Oh, and then she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't mention it. We're offering another incentive, offering another meal after work. She's like, are you ever at home? And it, you know what? When it's going well and we're doing well, then we reward the staff and we have incentives to make it more. You just make the environment better, I think. And what there is a buzz. There is a genuine buzz because people are doing well. People are helping other people, and I always think that. There's no one model of recruitment as well. So I keep talking. I see it as like an art, and it's about how can you speak to someone, how can you get them on the call, how can you email them so they reply, and then you learn from other people, and you're all listening out for like, oh, someone said that sounds great, and making a note of it. And I think that's what our environment, our office is doing right now as well. And we're looking at each business and seeing how can we improve. I'm using Amelia's business and ours as an example, but yeah, the fun part is it is fun. Because you've got a lot of like-minded people in the same environment, all trying to, do well, and been afforded that opportunity to do so. And there is that family aspect. But I agree with, don't take my word for it as well with Curve. I think that you make your own decision. There's a lot of other agencies, and speak to them and you make around a decision what's the right fit for you. I think that's really important. Yeah. I'm speaking from I'm a Curve till I die type person. I've been here since the start, so I'm probably not the best person to give a real detailed overview. I can just say this is my experience, and I've been afforded all these opportunities and not let me down.
I don't think the purpose of this podcast is just look Curve. It's about recruitment as a whole. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's some amazing agencies. Like obviously those guys are based in Leeds. Some amazing agencies in Leeds, as we know, and it's kind of trying to get people to understand that there is different types of opportunities in with recruitment and kind of the opportunity that it could afford people as well. But I think a big thing, is look, the rewards, but like the social aspect of it as well. And then put on top of that, like how you're going to grow as a person. Like it's easy for me to say because that's the type of person that you feel you are because you've been in those environments. But why the fuck wouldn't you want to like be around like-minded people like that and push yourself and grow and all that type of stuff? If people are sat at home thinking, well, I wouldn't want to do that, then it's definitely not right for them. Yeah. But for the people who are like, do you know what? The sky's the limit. I can learn a trade. I can get commercially round. I can have some fucking fun while I'm doing it and earn some money. Yeah. Then why not? Like, give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how long we've got left.
Yeah, we've probably got a couple of minutes, I reckon. Do you want to, should we finish with Ben's close?
Yeah, my golden question. Okay. So, obviously, as we come to a close, I think, obviously, what one piece of advice would you give to people looking into recruitment about maybe to prepare maybe for recruitment or what to expect? Just one piece of golden advice. Either of you can go first. It might have a little bit of thinking time.
I'm just thinking of just the one advice, so I don't give you loads. But yeah, I've already mentioned it. Really, mine would be just building relationships within the industry. It's not a short game. Like when you first go into it, you think everything's going to be super fast. But I think if you just focus on building relationships and constantly learning as a person and growing your skills, then it'll just build you up to be a successful recruiter in the long term.
Love that.
I'll try and put
on.
a full stop before I carry on talking. Just one advice.
What about you, Joe?
I think keeping in line with what we've spoken about, I would say really define what you want to get from recruitment. So if it's just a 9-to-5 job, or if it's a career, because there's two different things I think what you'll put into it. So that's what I would say. What do you want to get from this business, or what do you want to get from this opportunity? I think that'll dictate a lot of your journey.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's tough, isn't it, at times? So it's understanding like the reasons why you're getting into it and making sure they're fucking true. Because if they're not, then what? Like you're gonna last it.
It's like you're just cheating yourself, really.
Yeah,
it's we used to teach it all the time, don't they? You're just cheating yourself. But I think that if it's not you, then if you're not going to put the work in, you're probably not going to get the results that you expect and that you hear about. You're probably not going to get a Lamborghini after a year or anything like that. But you could change your life.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Love it.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for being on today.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, it's been
Very
fun.
insightful.
First
Enjoy
podcast
yourself.
appearance for you both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
The only way is up now, guys, honestly.
But it comes
Going
back in
worldwide.
like growth, isn't it? Like putting yourself in these situations. It's tough at the end of the day. It's like, you can be a podcast superstar by joining recruitment.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I had a mic, I was doing Vanilla Ice.
Do a little rendition now.
We should end on that, I think. Yeah.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my bad new invention.
Fucking fade out slowly to that.
Stick to recruitment.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Curvecast. To learn more about Curve and stay connected, be sure to check out the episode description where you'll find links to our website, social media platforms, and more information about our special guest.